Hello, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. It's match day, it's Manchester Derby day, it's passion day. We need some passion today. We do need some passion, we need reaction, we need a result, we need progression, we need a lot of things ending in shun. And that's what we're looking for from Manchester United today. But this is your latest Manchester United news, of course, and a bit of transfer news. A new centre-back being targeted. We'll talk about that. Potentially PSG coming in for David De Gea. Controversial. Some people will be happy, some people won't. And some comments from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer basically asking for a little patience. I need a little patience. Give him time, give him time. We're back in 1989. Well, this is what he wants. He wants a bit more patience. He wants a bit more time. And to be honest with you, I agree with him to a certain extent, but I will always say, how long do you get? You've been in the job. You know what? I'm even being fair and I'm removing the interim period now. He's been in the job officially 2 years. He has been in the job coming up for 2.5 years if you count December. But he's in the job officially for 2 years and we're still talking about progress. We're still talking about time. Apparently last year we had a lot of young players that we had to integrate. I'm very interested to know who these young players are, if you can let us know. But lots to talk about from Solskjaer. He made quite a few comments last night. We'll go through those as well. Can I just draw your attention to the link in the video description as well? United Stand Picks is back for the game today. If you've not played this before, the link in the video description. We've got another £1,000 cash prize pot. That is to do with... you've got to be over 18, is what I was going to say. Get your words out, Goldbridge. You've got to be over 18 to play it, but it is free to enter. Lots of you have already downloaded it. If you have downloaded it, it's just a reminder to play it before kickoff. You can win some of that £1,000 cash prize pot. 12 questions to do with the games. I don't know what the questions are today, but they're normally things like, will United score? Will Bruno get an assist? Will Rashford score? 12 questions that are to do with in-game actions. There's a live leaderboard once the game kicks off. Those people at the top of the leaderboard, they win the cash prize pot. You've got to be over 18 because of the cash prize pot. Please do play responsibly, and all the terms and conditions are in the video description. Links in the video description if you want to play it. Remember, it's free to enter, but you must be over 18. And if you have already downloaded it, it's just a reminder to play it because you may as well play it. It's free to enter, as I said. Right, let's get on with Ollie. I don't really know where to start today because we've got a Sunday morning, so you do get a few different stories, as we always say on the Sunday morning show. But I think we'll start off with credibility. We'll start off with, before we talk about De Gea, before we talk about this centre-back story, we're talking about what Solskjaer said from his own mouth. This came out in the embargoed section of the press conference, which came out late last night. And he said, I know our fans want us to win and that they're impatient for success, but we're working as hard and as quickly as we can. First thing, I agree with what Solskjaer says. He knows the fans want us to win and they're impatient for success. Good, acknowledge that. Good acknowledgement from the manager. We're working as hard and quickly as we can. I think Solskjaer's working as hard and as quickly as he can. I think the coaches are working as hard and as quickly as they can. And I don't think anybody, even Ollie's biggest dislikers, can say that he's not working as hard and as quickly as he can. What they would say, I believe, is he good enough? I can work really hard at inventing, I could have worked in my shed for the last year working on a vaccine for COVID. I tell you what, we're all finished because I ain't got a bloody clue. I could work all the hours. I haven't got the experience, haven't got the qualifications. I'm shit at chemistry. Whatever. You see, I'm probably even on the wrong subject to do vaccines. And I can work really hard, but I'll never succeed because I'd be shit at it. So that's one thing. And I'm not saying Ollie is crap, but I think that's what his detractors would say. What I would say personally is, I don't necessarily think Solskjaer and his coaching setup is crap. But what I do know is the board aren't working as hard and as quickly as they can. And I think if Solskjaer is speaking for the collective Manchester United, he's just doing what he has. He's doing what he's told again. He's doing what he has to do as Manchester United manager, which is toe the line for the whole club. He has to back the board. He has to do that. But there is no way I'm going to sit here and believe Solskjaer when he says, we as a collective football club are working as hard and as quickly as we can. Because I know we can work quicker and I know we can work harder. We are working as, what the true line is, we are working as hard and as quickly as we can within the parameters of making money for our owners, which makes us very slow. Because that's the truth. We can if we want, spend the money that Man City do, that PSG do, because we can leverage our revenue streams over the next 10 years and we can work a lot quicker. We don't. So we're not working as hard and as quickly as we can because there are many ways we could be more efficient. We could appoint a director of football. We could have got him a centre-back and a right winger last year. So these statements, whilst understandable from Solskjaer, are totally tinged with bullshit unless he's talking about him personally. Because him personally, I think he is working as hard as he can. But I can't say that I think that the club are. And the club can take that whatever way they like, not even being critical about the club. What I'm actually doing is observing the way the club has behaved for the last 15 years with these owners. And they're not working as hard and as quickly as they can. Because it's always with a but. And it's not a Nicky but. He says, we're working hard as we can every single day. And that is everyone at Man United. See? So he is doing what I thought. From the scouts to the cleaning ladies and the people in the kitchens, everyone's working really hard to get us where we feel we belong, and that's the top. Disagree, Ollie. Disagree. Not everybody in the club is doing that. A lot of people who are in the club are doing that. I'm sure the kitchen ladies are, and the kitchen men. Let's be diverse. I'm sure that the cleaning ladies and the cleaning men, Ollie, let's be diverse. I'm sure they're doing it as well. And I'm sure that the communications, the marketing team, I'm sure they're doing everything they can. But you can work as hard as you can in a business. But if the people at the top say we ain't spending the money, you're not spending the money. He said on new signings and adapting to the Premier League, the more time we get, the better we will become. I know so much that to make things grow, you need to bless them with some patience. Give a little patience. He also said we had loads of youngsters coming through last season. This season we have signed players of a different calibre. Of course, we've got Alex Telles, Donny van der Beek, Edison coming in. 2 youngsters that we've signed. We are getting a better and stronger squad. I have to say I disagree on this. I need to come back to the live comments. Who are the youngsters that we fed in last year? I'm struggling with this. I'm gonna have to call this out. We had loads of youngsters coming through last season. Can people just, first of all, tell me who the youngsters were that we had coming through last season? Brandon Williams. Anyone else? Mason Greenwood? Yes, 2. Okay, yeah, Mason Greenwood and Brandon Williams. Loads is not 2. Who else? And that's it, isn't it? That is it. And they didn't... I mean, Greenwood came through last season. That's one player. Brandon Williams got used for a few months and then didn't get used. He was used for about 3 or 4 months. When you count out the fact that he played from January to the start of March, then we went lockdown, and then he didn't really use him that much. So he didn't really use him. It was just a period of time. It felt like it was January to August, but actually a lot of that was lockdown. I can't think of the loads of youngsters we brought through last year. Which manager can we realistically get right now, says NG Music. And hi Mark, is there any truth in the rumours that United have inquired about the availability of Rafinha from Leeds, says Dara? Well, we spoke about it last night on last night's show, Dara, so it's more in depth on that, but I wouldn't know if there's any truth in it. But yeah, I can't really think of Dan James isn't young. Dan James isn't young, come on, he's not a youngster. Twan Sebi had been on loan at Villa and used by Jose Mourinho. Rashford had been used by Jose Mourinho. Chong didn't get used last year. Gomez left, didn't get used either. Do you think there's a real worry now we could fall out of the top 4, and congratulations on 1 million subs, says Willem Burtonwood? Well, we could fall out of the top 4, yeah. James is not young, and we bought James, so he's not. Dan James is not a youngster. Have we got a chat full of 90-year-olds? Dan James is not a youngster. When he says we brought loads of young players through last year, you're talking about Manchester United youth. That's what we're talking about. Dan James was a transfer and he was 21 when we bought him and he played in the Championship. He's not classed as a Manchester United youth player. We're talking youngsters here. Teenagers. He even clarifies his reference himself by saying we've bought a couple of youngsters in this as well in the transfer window. Yeah, 18-year-olds. Traore and Palestri. So I'm really struggling to understand what the difference between someone who has to back the board and a Glazer puppet is, says Andre. So yeah, I mean, look, there we go then. I think before we'll just move on, but I didn't understand what he said when he said we had loads of youngsters coming through last season. I didn't know whether it was he genuinely thought that, whether he's trying to pull the wool over our eyes. I don't know. If he genuinely thinks he's bringing youngsters through, I disagree. I don't think he has brought many youngsters through, to be honest with you. I don't think we've done it this year, and I don't really think we did it last year. Greenwood and Williams. Look, Greenwood's a player he's going to play for Man City. He's going to play for Liverpool. You're going to play him. So Greenwood, I will say that. Williams, I think Brandon Williams has been given enough game time, to be honest, anyway. But There's nobody else, so I don't know what he's talking about. Loads and loads of youngsters. For me, it seems like I think he's potentially trying to sell a story that's not there on the morning of a massive game. This season, we have signed players of the caliber, and we are getting better and a stronger squad. I mean, are we getting a better and stronger squad? I mean, I do feel that a lot of this is, for me, I back Solskjaer, as you know. And Lil says we're going to get thrashed 7-1. Astana, says Robert McCormack. Yeah, one game. You're right, Robert. You are right. One game we did play some youngsters. You're right. That's not really classed as bringing through loads of youngsters, though, is it, Astana? But Jesse Lingard as well. Forgot a Jesse. That's three youngsters we brought through last year. But I back Ollie till May. And I think for me, it's about top 4. It's about winning a trophy this season. And that's what I'm looking at. But I don't want to hear is we brought loads of youngsters through last season, and I don't want to hear about we're building a stronger squad all the time. I don't think the squad is stronger now than it was a year ago. I don't. That might be controversial, but I do not think our squad is stronger than it was last year. In many ways, a lot of that is to do because people have dropped off their form. But how can the squad be stronger when the midfield, which is the engine of any team, is weak? What does he think he is building in that midfield is what bothers me. Because he talks about the squad is getting stronger all the time. But that midfield is weak. Why are we not seeing this? I don't know. The midfield thing bothers me, really. It really, really does. And he said, I think we are set out to build a strong squad, and our squad is getting deeper and deeper and better. Of course, I've said so many times we need to make changes and rebuild. So yeah, he wants to bring players in, which for me is the most positive thing he said. But I think we are set out to build a strong squad, and our squad is getting deeper and getting better and better. I disagree. I really do disagree on this. I do not think our squad is getting better and deeper. I think it's getting worse. I think the personnel is probably better than a year ago, but those players are getting worse. Martial is worse than he was a year ago. Rashford's worse than he was a year ago because he's injured. Greenwood is worse than he was a year ago because he's had a different season. Matic is worse than he was a year ago because he's declining. Pogba's worse than he was a year ago because he's injured. Donny van der Beek is worse than he was a year ago because he's not at Ajax and we don't pick him. Tellez is worse than he was a year ago because we don't pick him. Cavani's as bad as he was last year because he's injury prone. Luke Shaw's better than he was last year. Bruno is starting to drop off from where he was last year. Maguire and Lindelof are worse than they were last year. Wan-Bissaka's worse than he was last year. So it's not about the players. I think a lot of the players are the same as they were last year, but for many different reasons. I think Fred's worse than he was last year as well. McTominay, I'll leave it for you. Dan James, I'll leave it for you. But some people have got to be better than they were than last year. But you know what I'm saying? It's like Mata's worse than he was last year because he's getting older. So I don't think we are getting a bigger and better squad. I think the squad that we've got is getting worse for many different reasons. It's not always I think the mistake some people make, in my opinion, is that they look at a squad and they go that, we've got better players than we did a year ago. And yeah, we didn't have Tellez and Cavani and Van der Beek this time last year, and they were added to the squad, and we removed Alexis Sanchez and Delot and a couple of others, and we made the squad better on paper. It's still very, very weak in certain areas, but your squad is not just about the players you've got, because we can all look at the roster and say, well, that roster's stronger than that roster. But when you look at the roster of last year, is it not a fact that Anthony Martial last year was brilliant and he's not anymore? Is it not a fact that Matic last year was brilliant and he's not anymore? So how is your squad stronger? We're not looking at names. You know, I can look at a menu at lunchtime. Well, I can't because of COVID. I can't go anywhere. But if I went out for lunch, Sunday lunch, and I look at a menu and I go, you know what? That pork with the crackling and the gravy and the stuffing, that looks banging. That looks brilliant. And then they bring it out and it's basically Iceland food warmed up in a microwave and it tastes like crap. Well, it does, as strong as it looks on paper, it doesn't necessarily transmit to what the reality is. And I think, look, maybe on paper some of our players, our squad does look better than it does now, but it's not because the players have dropped off. So I don't think we've built a stronger squad, and I don't think we're getting better and better. I really don't. I think at the moment we're not looking in a great position, which is why today's a massive game. But also, a lot of that is not on Solskjaer. As I've said before, the point still remains that The squad needs to get stronger based on the issues that you have identified. We didn't bring a centre-back in. He wanted one. We didn't bring a right winger in. He wanted one. We haven't brought a CDM in. We need one. So the squad won't get better if you haven't got fundamentals. You could have 23 brilliant players. Well, you could have that squad, take Bruno out of it, and we're an Arsenal. We're a mid-table club. You put Bruno in it, we're in the top 4. That's a fact, isn't it? So that squad can only get better if it's got certain components. You take Bruno out, that team drops like a stone. You put Bruno back in, you go back up to second. Yeah, you add a centre-back and a right winger and a CDM, and that team gets closer to Man City. So squad smod. If you don't add the things that we need, the ingredients, then you don't get better, in my opinion. So there you go. Welcome to the Members Club, Anthony. And hi, Mark. Do you think United's strategy of buying youngsters just shields their inability to get the best out of already established ones, says Aditya. And Mark, this is the club via Ollie, who has no choice but to go along with the bullshit to keep his job ahead of yet potentially another bad day. Same old, says Andy and Bruno. And I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. When Ole Gunnar, and I said it a few minutes ago, Andy, when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes out and says everybody within Manchester United is working hard and as quickly as possible to get us back to the top, do you, Manchester United fans, agree with that statement? Do you think everybody in that football club is working as hard and as quickly as they can to get us back to the top? Because that's the statement from the manager. Do you agree that? No, I don't. Do I think the manager agrees with it? No, I don't. Do I think the manager believes it? No, I don't. Do I think the manager would sit here in front of me and say, I do believe it and I think it is happening? Yes, I do. Why do I think he'd do that? Because he's being paid by people who, if he goes against them, he will lose his job. So he's doing his job. I can't criticise Solskjaer for doing his job. And I think he is 100% working his arse off to try and get us back on top of English football. But like every manager we've ever had, even Sir Alex Ferguson, you'll be doing it with hands tied behind your back, because that club as a board is not working as hard as it can do to get us back on top of football. And look, there's many examples of why, but the biggest example I would give that's a very easy one for people to understand on a Sunday morning is, have we got a director of football? No. Have we got a sporting director? No. Have we got anybody between the manager and the board to run that club in relation to recruitment, retention, renewal? No. And that's what any club would have if it was serious about being successful in the modern game. I worry that the end of Ollie has already started, but poor use of the squad, not using subs or Van der Beek and wooden tactics is the writing on the wall, says Joe. And buying the right players might not have been the desired effect. Lampard got some of the hottest young players in Europe, along with Kante, Mount, etc., says Lisedi. And I love that comment. I absolutely love that comment, and it's a great example. But you know what? That's not an excuse, Lisedi, is it? To say, well, just if Ollie'd got the players, it's not a guarantee for success. But if you give him the players, then you judge the manager. So Lampard got the players and he failed. He got the sack. Some people disagree with that. Some people felt it was too early. Some people think it was the right thing to do. He had no excuse. He had all the players he needed to be successful. And he failed. You fall on your sword. If Ollie had got those players that he wanted last season and we were 6th in the league, he'd be gone and there'd be no excuses. He'd probably put his hand up and went, yeah, I want good enough. Come on, Karaki. We're off on holiday to Magaluf with Magaluf. But the reality is, he hasn't had that. Mourinho didn't really get that. Van Gaal didn't really get that. So I agree with you. If you give him the players, he could still fail. But at least we know then if he's good enough. What we don't know at the moment is, and what we have to keep saying for every manager in fairness is, I don't think Mourinho was good enough, but did he get that backing that summer after he got second? No, he didn't. And you can always say, what if? I don't really think he would have been good enough because I think the players he was looking at weren't good enough, but he didn't get them. We demand progress, but the manager does not get the tools. Telles and Van der Beek was not his first priorities. What Ollie does is amazing without the backing, says SB. But well, look, on the match today, before we talk about De Gea and this new centre-back, and Daniel Kirk says, we're second in the league. How is that worse than last year? We're just in a bad run of form. We had plenty of those last year, says Daniel Kirk. And that's the positive spin. That is the positive spin, yeah. I agree, Daniel. And you're not just repeating what I've said. Right here, right now, to start wanting the manager to be sacked is ridiculous. We are second in the league. We are in the Europa League. And we are in the FA Cup. In a month's time, that might be very different. And I'm sure Daniel would be the first to say, if that changes, then maybe you do look at it. But I've always said you've got to give it till May. And as of right now, the position is disappointing in relation to this run of form. The lack of tactics, the lack of passion, the lack of creativity. The lack of rotation has cost us as well. We've got 4 of the top 5 players in the Premier League for minutes played, which is disgusting, really. It's an overuse of key players. But I do think today, I don't know what people are thinking about today. And we're third now. We're not second, of course. We're not going to be second tonight, I don't think. So we should actually start saying we're third, because we are third, you're right. I do think today, I will give you some predictions for today. And they're not good predictions. I predict that tonight, Ollie Out will trend on Twitter, unfortunately. That's nothing new. It would trend if we beat Newcastle 1-0 with a penalty. That will trend tonight, because I don't think we're going to get the result we really hope we're going to get tonight. I think Bruno Fernandes will be people will be saying, our own fans, I don't give a shit about other fans, our own fans will be saying Bruno doesn't turn up against the big games. And those fans who say that will be our fans that don't really understand football, because what will happen is Bruno will have a bad game, Rashford will have a bad game, Martial will have a bad game, and either Greenwood or James will have a bad game because we won't get the ball to them. So they're going to have a bad game. This is not a definite, this is a prediction. So Ollie Out will trend, our front 4 will get berated and slated by people who don't know football, and it's going to be an uncomfortable Sunday night for United fans. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I actually think that will happen even if we get the result I think we're going to get, which is 0-0. Because another 0-0 will not be met well. Ollie will love a 0-0. He'd take it right now. He'd run to London for a 0-0. And I think that I wouldn't blame him. I wouldn't run with him. I've just had my breakfast. But I think, as I said, I think if we score today, it's a huge achievement. But what I would say is, if we do get a 0-0 today, it's a good result. It's a good result against the team it is. They've won 21 games in a row. Is it progress? Is the only thing I will say. I'll be very happy if we don't get beat today, because I just can't see us scoring. Unless we do a madness and play on the front foot and really go at them, which I don't think we're capable of doing anyway. But imagine if we did. I mean, I'm just hoping that that's going to happen. But I think it's going to be a tough day today. But what I would say is we are playing Manchester City. And whatever the result is today, does the result matter more than the progression? Is it more about what is our approach to playing a team that's better than us? Are we going to try and tactically win the game, or are we just going to do what Stoke would do 10 years ago, which is sit deep, hit them on the break, get physical? And we've been doing that for 2 years against the better teams. And is that progress? That's the question for me today. It's about how we approach the game. But I do think we'll get a 0-0. Never thought I'd say that Arsenal are only top 10, says the Sport Analytics. And how is Xhaka still playing for Arsenal? For 5 years he's been taking a piss. I don't really care about Arsenal, Mahilo. Ollie speaking about a wider squad is a bit funny. He's a wide squad that he's fearful of using. He refuses to make subs or in-game tactical changes, says 6782 Anthony. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting twist on it as well. He talks about a big squad, but he doesn't use a big squad, does he? Congratulations on 1 million, says Yeshe. What upsets me about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, though, is that our players are going backwards, even Bruno. That's the part of Ollie that scares me, says Yeshe. Okay, well, we'll move on because we've got a bit of transfer news to discuss. So, a story coming in, it's actually from Alan Nixon, who I think 50-50 on him. Somebody said to me this morning he's reliable. It's not somebody I would put on the reliable list, but I will go with it. And effectively, what he's saying is that PSG are looking to make an ambitious move for David De Gea this summer, and obviously this has got a lot of people excited. I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, PSG is a club that look, I've been quite consistent. I think I want David De Gea to stay. I like David De Gea. I think he's one of the things over the last horrible 8 years that has been a light in that last 8 years. He's a player that I think has shown the qualities of Manchester United when we were shit, really shit. Player of the Year, I think he's won it 3 years, hasn't he, in the last 8 years. Yeah, he's lost his way a little bit recently, I agree, but I think this season he's starting to get his way back, and I see him as a United great who's only 30. I don't want him to go at 30. I want him to stay. I want to keep these players at our club for as long as possible, and I do believe in him, and I do stand with David De Gea. So I don't want him to go. I stand with David De Gea. Everyone knows that. But what I would say is that if PSG genuinely want David De Gea, it's probably the only way Man United can sell him. So I wouldn't discount the story, and I wouldn't discount the possibility that PSG could go for David De Gea. The only thing I will keep saying is, three and a half years on his contract. Manchester United's first team goalkeeper, which he is, and we need to keep him. That needs to be the. If anyone wants to sell David De Gea, you've got to say he's Man United's first team goalkeeper, because we can't have him Man United's bench keeper because his value plummets. So Manchester United first team goalkeeper, I'd want 40 million, especially with 3.5 years on his contract. 40 million, and then his wages are 18 million a year. So PSG would have to give us 40 million, and then they'd have to pay David De Gea 18 million a year. So over a 4-year deal, that's going to cost them £100 million for a goalkeeper. No club will do that, but PSG are probably the only club in the world that could afford to do that. So I don't think there's anything in it. You know what I personally think? I think this is a story that works at a time where people will like it. I think there's half our fan base that will love it, and I just think it's a story that cannot be substantiated as bullshit. And you know, I don't personally think there's anything in it. All I think it does is stir the pot of this Henderson versus David De Gea thing. And you know, I watched Fex's interview with Harry Pinero yesterday, and I know Harry was saying that, you know, that Henderson wants De Gea's spot, which, you know, I would expect that. And he was saying that he thinks it's time to go with Henderson, which I respect, but not for me. I think it's time to stick with David De Gea. He's not past it. He's not a legend. He's a United great, and I think financially it would cripple us to sell him. So I think you've got to stick with him and sell Henderson, in my opinion. But look, if PSG come and give us the money, then, and you know, and Ollie chooses that's the way he's going to go, then I will back Henderson. I personally wouldn't do it, but I can't see there being anything in this story. I think it's financially not viable for anybody other than a PSG, and PSG, I think they could spend that £100 million on better areas of their team. I'd rather go toe-to-toe with City, give us as good as we get, and get playing well than get a draw and show the world we've got no fight in us, says Luke. Well, this is the choice that Ollie's got, and I think we know the choice he's going to make. Anthony says, hi Mark, I'm watching from America. What are your thoughts on Man United signing Sergio Ramos? I don't think there's any chance of it happening, Anthony. At this moment in time, I don't think there's any chance of that happening. So, yeah. Back De Gea, says Brandon Stevens, and he's got the pink gloves. Thank you. I forgot about the pink gloves emoji, actually. Only the members can use those, by the way. Is Matic out the door next season, says Mahilo. I think that Matic and Mata need to go. And look, that's just ruthlessness. Just before I talk about this centre-back target, that is ruthlessness. I know people like Matic, and I know people like Mata, Ricky, but the point is that they're two players on big wages who don't offer much anymore. They're cameo players, and we need a CDM who plays every week, and we need a Mata who is in his prime pushing for a first team spot. They are what they say on the tin. They really are bit part players. Oh, give me 10 minutes. Oh, give me a start against Watford in the Cup. I don't want that. Mata is no threat to Bruno Fernandes or Dan James or Mason Greenwood. He's no threat at all. He's a token player. He's a 10 minutes. Oh, he can do a job for 10 minutes. You want somebody in Mata's place who's genuinely pushing to start. Genuinely. And the same with Matic. Matic has retired from Serbian international duty. I thought this would be a kickstart to him getting a couple of years out of his career in the Premier League. He is third fiddle to Fred and McTominay. And whatever you think about Fred and McTominay, they are higher in the pecking order than Matic, justifiably. So I think if I'm a manager, I'm like, look, you haven't lived up to it this season. I needed you this season. You've not stepped up to the plate. You're gone. And the same with Mata. You've got to be ruthless. Nice guys. Bye. Because that's what top level football should all be about. I don't think Pep Guardiola would hang on to players like that, and I don't think Jurgen Klopp would as well. Deadwood United ain't winning today, says Hatchet. Matic is declining, says Hayder. I think he is. I didn't think he would, but I think he is. Top four in serious threat now, says Mapes. Ollie gave Matic a new contract. The contract was too long, Annie. It was too long, that contract. But at the time, Matic was playing well, in fairness. Please smash a like on the video, by the way. I do want to talk to you about Edmund Tapsoba, who plays for Bayer Leverkusen. He's a centre-back, 22 years of age. Man United have been linked with him. The story is that we've been scouting him. There's talks of tip-offs from somebody in Germany. I don't really know loads about this lad, to be honest with you, but I'm just going to be consistent, and I'm going to talk about Leon Bailey, who also plays, obviously, in the Bundesliga, and we spoke about him last night. The thing about Tapsoba is nobody's really heard of him in a wider footballing community. Some of you will have heard of him, of course you will. There's a lot of people who are saying, oh yeah, he's a brilliant player, go and get him. It's a no from me. It's a no from me because he's the sort of player that comes into the team and will be on the bench for Lindelof and Maguire next year. We cannot bring a centre-back in who has the chance of being on the bench as he gets time to feed himself into the game. Solskjaer said it himself last night. He was asked about Telles, he was asked about Donny, and he was like, these players are going to get better the longer they're training with us, effectively. We can't bring a centre-back in like Tapsoba because he will be on the bench. He will be. And everyone will be going, why is he not picking him? Why is he not picking him? It's still Magaluf. And Ollie will be going, takes time for them to adjust. We need to get a centre-back that goes straight into that team. They need to go into that team and look at Harry Maguire and say, you do what I'm telling you to do. I'm better than you. That's the centre-back we need. We need to focus on the goal. We need to focus on what we need. And I think when people start going, oh, I like the look of Tapsoba. Oh, there's a lad at Torino that might be quite good. No. Back away and walk away. We don't need potential, could be good. Ollie's going to get hold of them and not pick them, and we're going to be like, why they're not going to get picked. If you get Varane, if you get Koundé, if you bring a quality of player in like that, they go straight into the first team and they look at Harry Maguire and go, I'll tell you what to do. That's the quality of centre-back we need. So I don't want Tapsoba. He might be a player that ends up at Liverpool in a couple of years and be the next Van Dijk. Great, because Klopp will turn him into the next Van Dijk and give him the opportunity to be the next Van Dijk. But we've seen with Van der Beek and Telles, both first-team players at very good European clubs, sitting on the bench for Manchester United. So why do you think a Bundesliga centre-back with potential is going to come and play in our team? We're not going to do it. So I am desperate that whatever player we bring in this year, that they are going straight into that first team, and I know they're going straight into that first team. And in centre-back, I want a player that isn't sitting on the bench, that isn't one for the future, that isn't adapting in training and getting stronger every week. I want him straight in that first team, and I don't think Tapsoba would do that. So for me, he's like Leon Bailey. I think if we bought Leon Bailey, he wouldn't go straight into the first team. It would be like, he's working hard in training. Yeah, but Ollie, it's now May. Yep. Might get in 5 minutes in the last game. So Mirror reported that United missed out on Haaland because they got the time zones mixed up. Can't bridge the gap to City with such petty incompetence as Amal. I haven't read that, mate. Haven't read that. So yeah, I want players bringing in this summer that are absolutely in the team. You know they're coming into the team. And I think that's very, very important. And I think this Tapsoba looks like he's a good player. He's 6'4", he's fast, he's good on the ball. I mean, he is right-footed, but I'm not bothered about the left-footed thing anymore. I do like him, and I think that there's nothing against the lad. I think he could be a really good player, but I don't think he's the right player. He's not the player that I think United would use. Need to develop from McFred. Ball. Rodgers did more in a month for Leicester style, says Ashley McGimp. And and United are going to make no key signings, says Sajad. I just also want to say as well, I mean, Tapsoba may well be better than Maguire, but Ollie won't think that, will he? What I was going to say finally is that, well, not finally, but what I was going to say is as well, I don't want to hear anything about an injury crisis. I've heard some of our fans talking about Man United. Oh, it's such a shame we're playing City with an injury crisis. What's this injury crisis then? Please tell me what injury crisis we've got. Paul Pogba being injured is nothing new. Paul Pogba was injured this time last year for 5 months. So Pogba being injured is not, oh my God, woe is us. Pogba does get injured. It happens. So Pogba on his own is not an injury crisis. Mata's injured. We don't use him. Van der Beek's injured. We don't use him. Cavani's injured again. Well, what a surprise. What a surprise. This isn't an injury crisis. Don't ever think that Manchester United have been in an injury crisis this season. For once, we actually haven't. The problem is the team's not good enough. We haven't got an injury crisis. We've got a lack of identity crisis. We've got a lack of creativity crisis. We are look, Pogba makes us better, of course he does, but everybody is going to lose one or two players this season. So we haven't got an injury crisis. What we've got is, we've got nobody else who can create from deep other than Paul Pogba. And that's not an injury crisis. That is a recruitment crisis, that we don't have viable players to back up. And I can see people saying, well, Donny's the backup to Pogba. Can you show me the evidence of that? I've never seen this evidence. I've never seen, if Pogba doesn't play in the CDM position, Donny plays there. No. We're not using Donny and his injury as an injury crisis because Pogba's out. We haven't used Donny van der Beek where Pogba plays when Pogba's not played or Pogba's been injured this season. So that's not true. We're not in an injury crisis. We're missing Paul Pogba. That's what's happened. And yes, he's a big loss, but it's one player. But it's not an injury crisis, it's a tactical crisis, it's a squad crisis, it's an identity crisis that we didn't identify the fact that if Paul Pogba gets injured, we've got fuck all creativity from the midfield. And that's the problem with Manchester United. And that is why we need a CDM. Hi Mark, if Ollie doesn't get new contact in the summer, who do you think we will get? I'm not saying Ollie out, but I'm saying wait till May. Sean, all I would say is that I do not think that Manchester United will go anywhere near. Well, let me phase this. This is only my opinion. I don't know how bad we'd have to finish the season for Solskjaer to get sacked. If we get top 4, he will get a new contract. Even if we finish 4th on the last day and don't win any trophies, I still think he gets a new contract. So I'd prepare yourself for that. I don't want that to happen. I hope we're going to finish 2nd and win a trophy. That would be justifiable to get a new contract. If we finish 4th and don't win a trophy, I think he'll get a new contract. If we finish 5th and don't win a trophy, I still think they're going to give him a new contract. In my mind, I'm like, what would it take for them to remove Solskjaer this summer? Because it's all full steam ahead. I've been told this, and I'm sure you can bloody tell it anyway. That club is focused on what they're doing in the summer for this coaching network. They are not thinking, talking, or even looking at bringing anybody in. There are no plans in place. There are no discussions ongoing with another coach. With Pochettino, it was always there if needed. It was like, yeah, wink, wink. There is no manager there. There is nobody lined up if this all comes crashing to the ground. And that is the noise coming out of the football club itself. Doesn't mean that there isn't anybody, but as we know with United, they're not very good at keeping secrets. So what I'm hoping is that we get top 4, he gets backed, and we improve. Because if he doesn't get top 4, you might still find he gets another year contract, and then that will send us into a horrible situation next season where a lot of people think he shouldn't be the manager. Some people will obviously still stick by him. Will the club have backed him? And you go into next season and it's like, as soon as there's a bad result, it all goes to shit again. And the inevitable will eventually happen. So I still believe we're going to get top 4 and he will get a contract, and then it's about whether the club will back him. But I'm not convinced that even if he doesn't get top 4, that they're not going to give him a new contract, because there's no noise about anybody being lined up, and I don't think the club want to do that. Absolutely. Well, I know the club don't want to do that. Absolutely fed up, Mark. Zero creativity, poor squad. Well, let's not be fed up on the morning of the Manchester derby, because what I will always say is, I don't think we're going to lose today. I think it's going to be 0-0. And what history shows us is that a derby is a great leveller. And whilst we were always the favourites going into these games, we're not the favourites today. Man City have won 21 games in a row. They are the favourites. We're not playing particularly well. But this is the sort of game where I expect McTominay, Fred, Bruno, Rashford, Greenwood, Luke Shaw. I expect some real passion and fight from those players today. And it's a derby, and that can be a great leveller. I want to see some tasty tackles. I want to see the ref let them go. I don't want to see stupid red cards. I think the only chance we've got of getting anything from this game is if we actually give a bit of muscle, because we're not going to have the tactical ability. We're not going to have the quality. That belongs to Man City. But what we can do is we can have the passion, we can have the aggression, we can have the tenacity. So that's what I'm looking for. And look, derbies are great levellers, and let's see what happens. I'm very excited about it. So join us for the watch along this afternoon. Smash the like on the video. They are focused on keeping Ollie for as long as possible to keep him lying to the fans about progress and being happy with the squad, says Andre. And Cavani, Pogba, Bay always out. Rashford, Victor playing hurt. Recruitment and looking after players needs to change. Going to ruin Marcus's career, says Jake Marshall. And remember, play United Stand Picks, £1,000 cash prize pot. It's free to enter, but you must be over 18. If you've already downloaded it, do your picks now and get entered. If you haven't downloaded it, links in the video description. Terms and conditions are there. Please play responsibly. It's free to play, but you've got to be over 18 because we are giving cash prizes away. And it's 12 questions, all to do with the game itself. And there's an in-game leaderboard that you can keep an eye on. Links in the video description for that. I'll speak to you all later. Have a little patience, yeah, 'cause the stars run so deep. It's been hard, but I have to believe. Have a little patience.